passing gun legislation in the wake of school shootings, church massacres, nightclub assaults, and the daily gun violence we experience on American streets and in the communities where people work and play. 2021 ended with the highest gun violence in U.S. history, with a record of 45,000 Americans being killed. I do believe 2022 has surpassed that. The numbers are just not in yet. And we're on track to continue and increase. The U.S. is only 5% of the world's population, but represent half of the world's civilian-owned guns, ranking #1 in firearms per capita. The land of the free and the home of the brave is also ranking #1 in homicide by firearm rate in the world's most developed nations. Gun violence is an American shame. Congress and states have authority to enact legislation, and the Supreme Court has upheld some firearm restrictions, such as bans on concealed weapons and the possession of certain types of weapons. The Gun Control Act of 1968 prohibits individuals diagnosed with mental illness, individuals dishonorably discharged from military, anyone under 18, or anyone convicted of a crime to purchase or possess a firearm. We need to advocate that we update this 54-year-old Gun Control Act to consider that guns can be purchased on the black market, stolen, found, or given away to dangerous people, to include underage youth, a person who is mentally unstable, someone who is angry and outraged, or just a domestic terrorist. This outdated act is about as old as I am, and it does not consider that gun violence has changed. Now people can purchase ghost guns on the internet and assemble ghost guns in the comfort of their own home if they have access to a 3D printer. Ghost guns are do-it-yourself, homemade guns that are unserialized and untraceable firearms. Ghost guns are the fastest growing gun safety problem facing the U.S. Ghost guns can be made fully functional in less than 1 hour with no technical knowledge or skill, and they retail for similar to what fully assembled guns retail for. Ghost guns are on the rise and are related to criminal enterprises, gun trafficking rings, and far-right extremists. Every time a mass shooting occurs, the politicians on both sides of the aisle offer thoughts and prayers. Well, thoughts and prayers are not enough. President Biden has called for states to make laws against ghost guns. Mothers like me have asked for programs that will help save our children. Communities have begged for stricter gun laws, but that is not enough. Lawmakers cannot legislate the heart of people by making stricter gun laws. The truth of the matter is, stricter gun laws won't scratch the surface. Dangerous people don't care about laws. And if it is impossible to create laws that address the hearts of men. I know what you're thinking, this sounds hopeless. Well, I remember feeling hopeless and helpless when Ayanna took her very last breath. The moment I was able to catch my breath, I vowed to do everything in my power to fight gun violence. I refused then, and I refuse today to stand by idly and do nothing. I am asking you to think about what you can do. What can you do? I'm so glad you asked. Let's talk about it. Gun violence is everyone's problem, as none of us are immune to the harm of random acts of violence by perpetrators. The number of injuries from gun violence outweigh gun violence homicides. We require a bipartisan response to create safe neighborhoods. Community safety is a human right that both Democrat and Republican and independent should be able to get behind. Here's some of the ideas that I had. Most people have a smartphone. And if we can make a phone smart, we certainly should be able to make a gun smart. Special technology can be used, rendering guns useless if the owner is not behind it. We can leverage technology in this gun violence space to be able to locate guns that are stolen and not in the owner's possession. We should support law enforcement officers to get guns off the street instead of creating laws that protect violent people who have been shown to be dangerous. We need more accountability from gun store owners who sell illegal guns to people who are not licensed and gun manufacturers. We should also support livable wages to improve impoverished community where gun violence flourishes that have demonstrated to be more violent and disenfranchised. We must keep communities safe so that the average citizen does not feel the need to have a gun to protect themselves. Other countries do it, so we know that it can be done. I say again, no mother should have to bury a child, but no mother should have to visit their child in prison either. We all lose when people are slaughtered on the street and go into prison. The gun violence does not only deteriorate our community, the trauma of everyday gun violence, school shootings, and random mass shootings has taken a toll on our mental health. I've worked in emergency mental health approximately 30 years, and I can attest that the depression that we see in young people because they have lost multiple friends is off the charts. The anxiety that young people feel from active shooter drills and watching violence on social media is off the charts. My name is Tyrese McAllister, and I am an advocate for community safety, working on the front line, trying to end gun violence. Again, no mother should have to bury their child nor visit their child in prison. But gun violence is not just a problem for the surviving parent. Gun violence is everyone's problem. I am Ayanna Jasmine's mother, and I don't want to have to bury another child. I'm the mother of Indasia Lindsay and the grandmother of Zaire Anthony. And I don't want my children to lose any more friends or family members because of gun violence. Gun violence is not just an American problem. Gun violence does not discriminate. It is a problem for every country, every leader, and every citizen. The Pledge of Allegiance says that I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And oh, how I wish this was true. As it relates to gun violence in America, we are not one nation. We are split by an aisle of red and blue. We are clearly divisible by what communities get protected and which communities don't. When people are not free to attend school, worship at their church or synagogue, or shop at a grocery store without fear of being hunted and killed, there is no liberty and there is no freedom. Justice for all. Where there is no justice for Ayanna, the person who killed her has still not been caught. And just like Ayanna, there are many other people who have not come to justice. I like to think we live in a just world where we could walk around free and do the things that we want to do, normal things, not anything extraordinary, and live a free life. But that's not our case. Again, gun violence is not just a problem of certain communities. Everybody has to get on board. Every citizen, every leader, in all countries. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for that. Your story is beautiful and touches your heart, and it is true. No parent, no mother, no any father, no one should bury their own child. And I like how you really share it with us as statistics, and they're very important. And as we do in this program is to look at, and I think that's one of the avenues, the concrete avenues as you have suggested, And as we look at, when I looked at your bio, and you're out there with a prevention plan, and an intervention plan, and intervening and understanding that America, when people are picking up guns like that and hurting other people, we're sick. And so how do we get to the root cause also of that sickness, as well as you had suggested? How do we look at really reducing the guns that are on the streets, in illegal hands, and how they're so freely gotten? Sometimes we don't really realize that. Some people say, well, we need for our protection and things like that. But we're talking about the illegal guns that are on the street. That is it's almost like a pandemic, if you will. And that's what you were sharing with us. But we want to thank you so much for, sharing your heart with us. And I felt it, and to go through that with your beautiful daughter. So we want to thank her. And again, what we do is to ask people. I don't know, sometimes I introduce people, and I just want to let everyone who is new here, my name is Reverend Zachary Oliver. I'm the Vice President of UPF. Also do other programs like Moral Black Leadership Foundation. And also I've done some other webinars on the African-American community and mental health, because the mental health is something that we don't deal with in that community. It's almost like a taboo. We don't do that, but we do need it because there is some symptoms, there's some cause to the mental deficiencies that are prevailing in those communities that also allows these kids, or the triggers these kids to pick up guns and shoot out randomly. What are they thinking? So we have to look at that. So in your area that you've been dealing with mental health, can you give us some insights of how you've been able to see that and work in that area?
Well, what I can say is that people are truly hurting. People are hurting. We look at suicides, and we know that the numbers have gone up. We know that when a gun is involved, that people are more likely to kill themselves if they have access to a gun. And people are hurting. And sometimes people act out, and sometimes people act in. We have to look at the disenfranchised communities and why there's so many guns available in those communities. We have to hold gun manufacturers and gun sellers accountable, because these are illegal guns that they're getting. And so how are they getting? Nobody in the neighborhoods are manufacturing these guns and getting them out. There's some store owners or people who are selling guns to dangerous people who don't have, who have not passed the background, don't have the credentials, and they're very easy to get. Here in the nation's capital, a gun is easy to get. And if you look at the news in the last couple of months, we've seen an increase in 12 and 13-year-olds who have guns. So a 12 and a 13-year-old who has access to gun is dangerous. Right. And that's why I don't say just criminals, because it's not, I don't want to criminalize it, but it's people who are dangerous, people who are not stable mentally can hurt themselves or hurt other people. And we see that. And so we have to really be able to address things other than laws. I work in the court system, and I do the evaluations for people who have been deemed incompetent and not able to have a gun legally, right? But that doesn't mean they won't get a gun. And so we keep tightening the gun laws, and it only really irritates people who really just want to protect themselves. It doesn't irritate the dangerous person because they still get guns and they have access to it. So we really got to look at this differently. It is very frustrating as a mother of a homicide victim for me to keep hearing about tightening gun laws. One of the things that I can say that President Biden did, which was really a big deal, is that he allowed money to be placed in programs that we can talk about it. For years, the Dickey Amendment would not allow federal dollars or programs in the disenfranchised communities to address gun violence at all. Like, we have to look at that. Like, that's a systemic problem. Why is that? Why do you have SAMHSA and all of these agencies, the CDC, they're able to give federal dollars for substance abuse and homelessness, but they were prohibited to give dollars for people who wanted to work on gun violence? They got to look at that. Like, that's telling. That's telling in a lot of ways about what's going on. We also have to approach gun violence as a public health issue. Why do people feel unsafe in their communities? Everybody who has a gun is not menacing. So even some 12 or 13-year-olds have a gun to protect themselves, but it's dangerous for a person who does not have their cognitive development fully to have access to a gun, or somebody who does not have good coping mechanisms to have access to a gun. So not that everybody who has a gun is a bad person, but if we take away the access, then we can give people other skills and other coping skills that they might need to be able to survive without being on either side of the gun. Because for me, both sides of the gun are the problem. We can't just address the fact that my beautiful daughter was killed and didn't deserve it, but why did somebody else's child on the other side of their gun? Like, that's very important to me to be able to figure that out.
Yeah, that's what that because everything plays. I believe the different categories and areas play a role in reducing this kind of heinous violence that we're subjected to. So I have a lot of people have made some statements on there, but I would like to also introduce Dr. Bruno Mazzali, who is the one who suggested you to come. He's a great man, a great humanitarian. He does a lot of incredible stuff, but he has a question as well. Dr. Bruno, would you like to ask Dr. McAllister a question? Can you unmute yourself? Oh, there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. No, you unmute again, doctor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You did an amazing presentation I never had in my entire life. You are so beautiful. You touch my spirit. And my recommendation to UPF, we know we all do good work all over around the world. And my recommendation, Reverend Oliver, let her be our national speaker to our movement. That's my recommendation. My second, I would like to tell you, we always know gun violence is all mental health. You mentioned that. And then why we have a mental health? Because the food we eat in our children,
yes,
family value, that's the key.
Yes.
Mama and Papa fighting, kids get confused. They go to school, they eat bad food. When they eat bad food, what do? We're the one we elect these delegates, congressmen, all these people. What do we tell them what to do with the food you are giving your own kids? Because the nutrition play a big role.
It does.
With all of this, we are doing it. This is Reverend Oliver. This is something. I was tears and crying because she spoke like Biden need to hear now. But we're gonna make it that be heard. And I see you're trying to do this. I'm very speechless. But I want to thank Dr. Renee who brought you. Dr. Renee, she's an amazing hero.
She is.
She's a veteran. She's an amazing mother. She went through a lot of mental health. She's amazing. Maybe she'll be next speaker. So I want to thank you, Dr. Renee, for bringing an amazing speaker today. But all of this comes through mental health, nutrition. So my sister, what do you think? If I ask you the question today, what will you tell the governor, West Moore, to do with the mental health in the Prince George's County all over United States right now, if you have that opportunity?
What I would like to tell them is that they have to sit down and listen to the people that are being affected and listen to what we say. Why that is hard is because we don't vote like we need to vote, right? So like I need to hold the elected officials accountable, right? To put programs in place that keep our children safe, to support police officers who can get through the guns. But the truth of the matter is people who are criminals have more rights than the people who don't, right? They have a lot of rights, and we have to do a lot of things, and that's not necessarily fair to be able to bring people to justice. It's very frustrating for the police oftentimes. And so I don't want to criminalize it, because not everybody who has a gun is trying to menace, but we got to figure out how to remove the access to guns. The access is really the problem, right? The other stuff, the other things are treatable. If somebody was fighting, we can recover from a fight, right? Like you don't have good coping mechanisms. You don't know how to negotiate or to resolve a conflict. We can get through that if you don't have a gun. The gun kind of changes the game, right? So we got to really get them to work with these, or arrest, put them in jail, the gun owners, the gun manufacturers, make them pay, start making them pay for funerals. And when somebody gets caught with their weapon, that they, instead of taxpayers paying the cost, that the gun manufacturers pay the cost. They'll change their tune if we hit them in the pocketbook.
Thank you. That's correct. That's a good point. I would like to ask two questions. Actually, one woman, historically, she was in bed and striking a match. How the thing flings, and it went on her house, because it burned her. She sued the match company and won. So I understand that particular point. One of the things I would like to ask you, thank you, Dr. Mazzali Bruno, for your comments. Each community in America is an intercultural, interracial, international community of people, which is the best of America. But each one has their different nuances of how they are affected and how they react to their cultural diversity.
This lady, her daughter was shot.
Mental health. Bruno, if you can mute toward mental health. How do you see the area of historical traumas that has been passed down, that probably is another kind of a trigger, if you will, to causing violence?
It definitely is. We have everything that we've experienced historically. We gotta be able to talk about it. We got to be able to own it. We got to be able to, understand it. Let's take police brutality. I am ashamed to admit that when I moved to Washington, D.C., 30 years ago was around the time that Rodney King was being beaten by the police. And I really couldn't understand for the life of me why everybody was in such an uproar. And people were I had been seeing that all my life. Police beat citizens who were running away, stealing cars, and they would get them. And I'm not saying that that's right. What I'm saying is that culturally, I had been raised in an area where that was normal, right? And my husband, who's from the South, he said he couldn't believe that that was normal for me, but it really was. And so a lot of times the gun violence is normal for people, right? My dad went to jail. My daddy's daddy went to jail. They had guns, that. And then we have to look at like racism. Like, why do I go to my school and my school is subpar, but I go to Fairfax County and it looks like a college campus, right? The children in Alexandria, Virginia get computers at the beginning of their freshman year. But Ballou High School don't get that, right? Like, so we got to look at geographically too, that there's some systems in place that are real, and that we feel them, right? Like we feel them. And food deserts. Why is there a food desert? If people can only get to a 7-Eleven to grocery shop? Like Dr. Mazzali said, like the nutrition is a big part of it. Children get diagnosed with ADHD, right? Just put them on some medication. So you have kids that are thrown into medication. They're not really truly evaluated and treated. And so then they grow up either med seeking or rejecting anything mental health because of how they were treated. It's just so, when I say if we start peeling back the layers of what we got to do to get our communities to be safe, it's going to take a while. However, we got to start doing, right? Like we got to start peeling back the layers. And I feel like that's why this is what Chief Lanier used to say, all hands on deck. Like we need everybody involved. And I, even having a nonprofit myself, I'm always disappointed that the same people support us, no new people, and that the events aren't sold out or everybody's coming to help. When you turn on the news and people are getting killed every day. This morning I heard today is the 4th of January. 12 people have been shot in DC. Like, that is crazy, right? Like, how do you not support any gun violence initiative? It doesn't have to be mine, but any gun violence initiative. And I've gone to other people's gun violence initiative, and they're just not well attended. This is everybody's problem. This is not just if you live in this neighborhood, right? Like my daughter, this is the other thing. And I'll admit, I'm embarrassed to say that I was under illusion. I got married at 23. I didn't have kids till I was till like 27 or 28. My husband and I have careers. We're college educated. I'm still being educated. We go to church as a family. We live in a single family home. We don't fight. No domestic violence here. I was never expecting my child to be a part of something like this. My daughter had never even had a fight. And so it's disturbing because we used to think it was like a certain type of person. But my daughter was minding her business, hanging out with friends, and she should have never been shot. And the other issue too, not just my child, but when this person decided to shoot into this neighborhood, my oldest daughter said there were children riding their bikes. It's the first day of spring. It's warm outside. The babies are riding their bikes. Anybody could have gotten shot. So when I say we have to peel back, it's so many layers we have to peel back. But if everybody is involved, we can get it done. And we need to get it done. My daughter, before my daughters finished high school, they had been to 5 funerals of homicide victims. That's traumatizing.
And I like what you said, all hands on board, on deck. We've had police officers here, law enforcement. We have people who deal with mental health, yourself, advocacies, and I think all hands needs to be on deck. And dealing with how do we get those guns off to the street, looking at what is the best practices of Canada or those places that you said that have done well at reducing the guns in on the streets, the physical gun in itself. I would like to ask.
I want that. That's the beauty of it to me. Like, sometimes people are starting from ground zero, right? Like there's no formula, there's nothing that's been done before, and they got to figure it out, right? Like, but other countries have done this, they're doing it. So I don't understand why we are so far behind as it relates to gun violence, because it's been done several times in several countries.
That's something to really look at and to explore. I'm going to read up on that and see why. And that's something we have to keep, as you are doing, becoming an advocate. I would like to, there's a lot of things that people say, so I'm not going to read everything. I want people to come on. First, I'd like to want to thank Dr. Renee Allen for, introducing Dr. Mazzali, Bruno Mazzali, for you to be on. It's just been great. So if she would like to say a couple of words, we would love to hear from her as well. I hate to put you on the spot.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you. I'm unable to take my picture off for some reason. I've come into the Zoom twice to do so, so please forgive me for not coming on live. I just want to say this is a great platform. Pastor Oliver, Dr. Mazzali, and all of these great people. I'm reading the meeting chats, and I'm so excited about this because I have watched Dr. McAllister for years. 5 years ago, I was her MC at her first event, and she is not the one who's taken this lightly or having a pity party. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has lost a child on this Zoom. I have not, thank you, Jesus, but she is not at home crying about it. She is out here trying to keep our children safe, each and every one of us, Black, white, or otherwise. And I'm just very proud of her. And thank you for giving her this opportunity. God bless all of you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, thank you for those great words. Yeah, I was thinking about you when you were talking. I was thinking about the power we're talking about. This is all the women's era, right? So the power of a woman, once she dries her eyes and then put that rod in her back, that's all she wrote. You know, it's like a pit bull. I'm going to get it and we're going to get it done. So I can see it in you. God bless you. And thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like just to come on and say, I don't want to read everything. Oh, my dear illustrious brother, Reverend Darrell Franklin, you wanted to say a word.
Thank you so much. Dr. McAllister, thank you so much for your incredible insights in which you have just provided to all of us. And I am also so deeply proud of you. I honor you, and I am so proud the way you have turned a deep tragedy and a loss, and how you have used that as a heavenly motivation. And I can only imagine your beautiful, precious daughter in heaven just saying, "You go, mama." And I'm telling you, you are becoming, through her spirit, you are becoming a national treasure. And you are bringing light. Every single thing that you said, you are bringing light towards helping to destroy the dysfunctional attempts to address this issue by our public officials, because they're sidestepping the problem.
Yeah.
You just nailed it. You just nailed all the circumstances that are creating this toxic environment where our fellow brothers and sisters have to deal with this trauma.
Yeah.
And then they worry, and then people get surprised why people are so angry. When you have this national shame occurring throughout the course of history, where you can go in one section in neighborhood and the schools have all different types of curriculum. And then in the lower areas, those school systems are suffering from profound, I'm tempted to say, deliberate neglect. And so what we hope to do, and I am so grateful for UPF for having this conversation so that we can talk about what are the real circumstances that are creating this toxic environment that is not allowing America's most precious jewels to be able to manifest their gifts, their God-given gifts in this world. And again, I'm proud of you because that's what you see. That's what you see in those children. They are not lost, but they have the potential of being great leaders. There's somebody else who can be another great person in human history from these neighborhoods if we begin to start having our people in the high places of government listening to people like you who are out there who know the answers. And once they do that, then we can talk about real substantial development
Yeah.
and healing and restoration. So thank you so much. God
Thank
bless you.
you. Thank
I
you
wish
so
you
much
all
for
the
your
best.
kind words. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Reverend Franklin said a mouthful. He and I, we work together also very closely on other avenues of how we can look within those communities and see that, you know, what in essence, you know, that probably that one who shot that gun, because of the extenuating circumstances in his life, you know, that is a problem, you know, in
Yeah.
the family and the environment and other things.
Absolutely.
But if you didn't, if he didn't have that and have that exposure, you know, the neglect probably from his friend, he might have been a wonderful genius helping humanity, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're looking
I
at
just-
this. Go ahead,
Go ahead.
please.
No,
No, go
I
ahead,
wanted to say that during when Ayanna got killed, now we look at the news and we see lots of girls getting killed. But in 2017, it really was not a lot of girls getting killed. And because Ayanna was a college freshman, we got a lot of media coverage. And Bruce Johnson asked me, what would I say to the person if they were, if I had a chance to say to the person who killed Ayanna? And what I said is that I forgive you for killing my daughter, because I know that this is not who we were born to be, but it's the circumstances. And while people were amazed that I was able to forgive, I knew too that unforgiveness wouldn't serve me. It's not going to bring her back. And that I really believe, you know, not to get real spiritual, but I'm just telling you, God gave this to me because he knew I could handle it. He knew that I was not going to sit down and just weep. Not that I don't weep, not that I don't cry, but like there was going to be something to be said. And basically we can't we can't afford to throw away anybody in our community, but what we got to do is get to them before they pick the guns up, before the guns are of interest. We live in a society that is a gun culture, right? Like I had some people visiting with some family members visiting me for Christmas, and they bought the boys guns. And I'm like, how I'm going to address this? Right? Because we live in the gun culture and we don't want to glorify that, right? Like maybe years ago, it could be a toy, but today it's more than a toy. And we got to really look at that. We got to look at it in our video games, right? Because that's what kids are doing. They're killing all day long, right? So they don't make the understanding that when you turn the TV back on, this person is going to get up. They don't have the level of empathy. So they don't understand that I'm a mother that's crying over my child. Like it doesn't register with them. And so we got to start doing some work at a very young age. We got to work with parents. We got to support parents who can't do it by themselves. No, no shade on single moms who are trying their best. Their children might be unsupervised because they're working 2 jobs, right? Like so no judgment in our community. Like, how can I help? What can we do? What is it that you need to get to the next level for you and for your children? And we got to be able to do that for our community.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Reverend Franklin. You know, you have to work on your doctorate degree, Reverend Franklin, and then I'll stop slipping calling you that. All right, Dr. McAllister, God bless you.
Thank
I want to thank you for your comment. I was always like just about to say it, that I said, no, you got to be sensitive to people. But since you said it, I will say it, and I will still say it out of sensitivity. That I kept thinking, well, maybe that was God's sacrifice for a greater cause, And now we witness to the mom and to your husband. I think I saw your husband's name up here, through your family, that it was for a greater cause. So it's painful. I don't even want to imagine, what I don't even want to imagine.
Yeah.
But, we want to thank you for how you've carried it. And you know, it just, I don't want to, tear come in my eyes because I don't want to think about it myself, the pain that you have gone through. But we want to thank you for rising through this occasion, coming against tremendous odds and still rising to do what is good for the sake of the whole community and for the sake of America, and we want to thank you. This is not our last. We're coming to the close. If you'd like to say a last couple words, we would love to hear you. And then this is not our last meeting. We look forward to having you. And after this, we can talk some more and see how we can collaboratively work, because that's going to be very important.
Excellent. I just want to thank everybody for their time and attention to this. Like I said, I've been very disappointed with the general population's response to gun violence when it's such a major issue. So you all being here today, listening to this live stream means the world to me and my family. And thank you. And just to encourage you, please do what you can. It doesn't have to be my foundation, but any organization that is pouring into children and communities and trying to help keep us all safe. Because, I do work there. I want children to be safe, but I want to be safe too. And I want each of you to be safe. I don't want you in the grocery store and getting killed, or you in your church having to worry about, can't worship because you're worried about somebody coming in. So just thank you again for your time, and I appreciate it.
Reverend Oliver, before we go, I really do appreciate if I can hear from my beloved sister, Dr. Mandalene. She's there, quiet. She's the best speaker in the world. I cannot even let her go for 20, 30 without hear her voice. For the summarization of all this, I mean, me and how we talk about this mental health. Hello, if you don't mind, Dr. Oliver. This is just 2 minutes.
Dr. Madeline is one of the core persons on this. I always call her for her comment. I didn't know she was up there, but you know what? Welcome, Dr. Alexander. Love to hear your comment in the closing of this program.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mazzali.
I appreciate it. That's my sister from another mister. Boom.
God bless. God bless. Thank you, Reverend Oliver, for openly sharing your platform. Dr. Mazzales, thank you. Miss Tyrese McAllister.
Yes.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you for your strength, for your continual encouragement. You have given a tremendous sacrifice. However, God has replenished your strength that you could move on to save much people alive. Your presentation was awesome for you to be able to speak for your heart and pour into us and share your story with us is greatly appreciated. As we talk about gun violence, we know that there are answers. We just have to go through the process to get to the right people to change what's going on now. This thing is bigger than us individually, but if we all come together collectively, change will come. So for all of those sacrifices, it's just like you said, you spoke very well and very clearly. Not only my daughter, but other young people that have been taken before their time. Not only those have been taken, but those that are behind the gun. They're taken away from their families, and their families are affected as well. So when we come together as a community, as a whole, we got to look at both sides. You spoke very eloquently when you said these kids are not even mentally capable of making these type of decisions. So how are they getting these guns? And that's the thing that we have to address. That's what we have to look at. Your point to make gun makers accountable, that's where it starts, that accountability. Because when you think about the underserved community, they can't get food, but they can get a gun.
That goes to that food desert thing, huh?
Yeah,
You
they
know
can food business. So how is this
Yes.
happening? So systemically, there is something going on behind the scenes that we're aware of and no one wants to speak on. You made it very clear. Unless the gun owner's fingerprint is on that gun, that trigger should not be able to be released. It's just that simple. So how technical do they really want to get? How gun safety do they really want to be? We're not talking about the people that have bought their guns and use them for protection and have the wherewithal, the mind, the control, the maturity, the gun safety that goes along with selling the gun. We're not talking about that population. We're talking about the population that that are getting these guns and using them maliciously without any thought. There was I think she was 10 years old. She was in her house in the bed. Someone shot up the house, shot her in the arm. This is no longer acceptable. It's unacceptable. So I thank you so much for sharing your story. I thank you for being willing to be the voice in your community. And a lot of times we wonder why people don't support us. Chances are they won't get it until it happened to them. And by no means am I speaking anything upon anyone. But a lot of times, if we're not affected personally, we have lack of understanding. But if we can have compassion and empathy, we can look at those who have been through the process and support them. So I pray that God will send increase, that all your needs will be met as you continue this journey. And sister, please let your voice continue to be heard. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you so much, Dr. McAllister. Dr. Alexander and I have been collaborating on how we can bring the best practices together and the so we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because you don't have to. I think you even use that analogy and what you shared. So we look forward to talking with you afterwards. We want to thank everyone for always coming on. And if you have any friends that you would like to speak, but also like to hear, please come on. We're every week, every Wednesday from 2 to 3, we're on and we're addressing this issue. And we're not just going to address it, to edify you about what's going on, but from the perspective of how we can become a catalyst in some respects to play a role in reducing the crime stemming from gun violence. God bless you. I want to thank everyone for coming on again. Dr. McAllister, you were great. We want to thank you so much for coming on. You touched all of our hearts.
Yes, she does.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
God bless you.
She does
Everyone, God bless.
she touched the world, Baba.
Yeah.
Baba,
Yes.
she's a superstar. Come on now.
Yes.
This woman, the whole world, Olive, I'm telling you, we have to make sure this message go viral. And each and all of us who are listening today, UPF, we are a big organization. We are bringing 500 people all over around the world. We talk about the family value. There's no any value if somebody killing somebody. Baba,
Right.
you know what to do. She is our speaker for the world.
Bruno, thank you so much, bro. Actually, we're live, so we have, I don't know how many people are watching live.
Got you.
God bless you, Bruno. Thank you, Dr. Mazzali. Thank you so much. God bless you, everyone.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Always.
No problem. God bless.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Very good.
Thanks, everyone.
So
Thank you,
good.
Dr.
very much.
McAllister.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Leslie.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.